I'm joined now by Mark Machado, broadcaster and host of the Murali End podcast. Mark, I literally, I found it really difficult to watch that. God knows what this guy's gone through. The saddest thing for me was that Azeem Rafiq somehow feels that he's to blame for some of this. Do you know what I mean?
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure.
Firstly, to reiterate what you said about Azeem Rafiq, I was listening to it this morning and just thought this man is an incredibly brave man. For some background, he's been trying to get some traction on this for about 3 years now. It took him about 18 months before any journalist took him seriously and was willing to kind of, give it the time of day. And now it's taken another kind of 18 months to get it to this stage. As you say, I mean, when you think about Yorkshire as the county, the kind of prefix before it is almost the word proud. And you can tell that he's still proud of being from Yorkshire. He's still proud of what the county can stand for. And as you say, I mean, he's taken a lot on his back, hasn't he? I'm gobsmacked by some of the revelations today. I knew it was going to be bad. I didn't quite think it was going to be this bad. I didn't think it would be.
What struck me, Mark, is that I was struck by his honesty. You could absolutely see what this has done to the guy, but you can also see the resolve that he's got to finally bring this home. I mean, what you followed this. This is centred at this moment, as we said, on Yorkshire Cricket Club. And I saw an aerial photo of Yorkshire Cricket Club earlier. All of their advertising banners have already been taken down. I mean, this could end Yorkshire Cricket Club. But for me, the big question is whether this institutionalised racism is fixated there. He says no, it's elsewhere. This is going to have major repercussions across the sport of cricket, isn't it?
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, Germany, the sponsors walking away, the negative publicity it's got, being dragged in front of a select committee. Yorkshire Cricket Club, as we knew it, the club that played last summer, just a few weeks ago when the county season ended, is, for all intents and purposes, that is gone.
Yeah.
There'll be new people running it. There might be some of the players still involved, but the whole structure when they do start playing cricket again will be totally different, I'd imagine. I think he's right to say that, there is a lot of racism within English cricket. I think for a long time people were happy to bury their head in the sand and just forget about it. That included, non-white people who in some cases were the victims of it. This should be the moment when everything starts to change. The problem is, though, is whenever you're in a crisis like this, the fire is still going to be raging, right? So we've had that day with the big allegations, which was today, and there's yet more stuff will come down the track.
The sad thing as well, from an Asian point of view, young kids wanting to get involved in cricket, Azeem made the point, this will probably put them off. He didn't want his son anywhere near cricket. Some of the best players in the world could potentially miss out because of their heritage or what they've learnt could happen to them from doing this. So damaging to cricket, but damaging to cricket across the world. But I've been really fascinated is the wrong word, Mark, so forgive me for that. I mean, the Michael Vaughan situation has absolutely just taken off, and you would struggle to think that Michael Vaughan will recover from this if he said those things, and he shouldn't do.
Yeah, he's a former England captain. He won the Ashes in 2005. He's a Yorkshire legend. I suspect this should be the last we've seen of him on television and on radio talking about cricket, because he was, till he was suspended by the BBC a couple of weeks ago when these allegations first surfaced. He was, one of the main voices of cricket at the BBC. For me, what I find interesting about the way the allegations against Michael Vaughan have kind of panned out is that the allegation was made. He's kind of just claimed he didn't do it, or can't remember saying it. And he's instead of trying to seek redemption and putting his hands up and saying, right, I'm sorry, like we saw Matthew Hoggard as
well, I read
today.
that just now, actually. Matthew Hoggard rang Azeem Rafiq and said if there was anything that happened at all in that dressing room that you felt uncomfortable with, this was a month or so ago, I'm appalled and I'm sorry. And Azeem said, which I thought was incredible of him, that meant so much to me. That was somebody acknowledging. The problem is, if you deny it, then the fires still rage. A bit like Boris Johnson's finding out with expenses. That's what happens.
I think at the crux of this, Jeremy, the problem is that racism, too many people consider racism a binary thing, that you are either a racist or you're not. That is not the case, right? There's different levels of it. There's different levels of abuse that you can give. Ultimately, what it is how do people feel in their own skin around you, and what can you say? Where's your relationship with that person? What's the context of it, right? It sounds like they were people who thought they could say stuff in that dressing room that A, they should never have said in the first place, and B, they just didn't simply realize the impact it was having on not just Azeem Rafiq, I'm sure the other
Of
non-white
course,
players
and
there.
when Adil Rashid, who currently plays for England, still came out and supported that was massive for this whole thing. But I go back to, and I don't know what your opinion on this would be, but I go back to when the independent inquiry delivered its report, and Yorkshire said okay and didn't punish anybody. If they had, would this have finished?
I
Would this wide ranging, quite widely ranging and correctly widely ranging look into something that's appalling? Would this have ever have happened if Yorkshire just apologised and we would be none the wiser?
Yeah, I think they could have, they all the recommendations should have been carried out. I think they could have come to an agreement with Azeem Rafiq, and I think this would have been localised towards cricket, to the kind of cricket press. Now,
It's
Yorkshire,
everywhere.
this is a disaster in crisis management, right?
Mm.
And I imagine it'll be the kind of thing that students are studying for years to come, because how Yorkshire, what could have been a problem that they dealt with in house, has now become dominated the news cycle for at least 24 hours.
An incredibly brave guy, though, Azeem Rafiq, and when the other thing that just I was like, what? When they said sign this and we'll give you some money, I literally, it does show. It does show that if you are strong as this guy is and you find willing allies, something as abhorrent as what happened to him can be brought out. And actually, that is when the British press is at its best, because his treatment by Yorkshire Cricket Club was completely and utterly appalling, completely and utterly unwarranted, and I think you're right, major repercussions. Mark, real pleasure to speak to you, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on. Mark Machado, talking about Azeem Rafiq's testimony today at the DCMS committee at the House of Commons. Institutionalised racism in Yorkshire cricket. Azeem Rafiq, so brave. This is going to go and go, this story.